Hey everybody, this vid is a little bit raw, a little bit unpolished. I hope you'll forgive me. I'm trying to keep up with my work and with the videos, and sometimes they take a bunch of time, and I just want to get these, make sure I don't get behind again. So, with that, take a look, see what you think. All right, guys, let me give you a tour of the situation. We're getting ready for the first power up, and I'd kind of like to show you what how everything is set up. So of course this is the receiver. We've all seen the receiver. I haven't yet put the station indicator tags inside the buttons. I'll do that after I've aligned the radio. I stuck the eye tubes back in the chassis. I don't think they'll work, but I'm going to give it a try. There's a couple of new tubes. It did have a couple of dead tubes, so I replaced these two right here. And these are 6SK7s. Okay, so those are replaced. I'm sorry, we got a 6SA7, 6SK7, and a 6SK7. So, all right, let's take a look here. What I have done is I've temporarily connected. These are really sloppy connections, but I have connected an AM and an FM antenna. These are the original antennas, and I haven't yet reworked them. This is a loop antenna. As you can see, it's pretty rough looking, that ribbon cable deal. That's the AM loop antenna. And of course, there's an FM dipole antenna right there, and it's in pretty rough shape too. I'll just put a new one of those in because that thing looks awful. And I may see if a tunable loop will work, and if the customer is willing to pay for one, that will be a lot neater job. Okay, so there's the receiver. Of course, you've seen the speaker already. And here is the amplifier. I put a couple of 5Y3 GTs in there. These should work out real well. They're both good strong tubes. And of course, here are the output tubes over here. A couple of 6L6s. So we're going to go ahead and put the camera on the tripod and give it a whirl. You'll see it when I see it. And my ultimate voltage that I'm going to be putting to this is about 123 volts. That's pretty close to what we generally have in voltage around here. So I want to go ahead and make this a legitimate real test. I haven't done anything with this yet. I suspect I mean, I got nothing when I first tried this when I first got the radio in, so I really don't know what to expect. I don't even know if all the tubes are good. Rather than test all the tubes when I got started, I went ahead and did the work. It was missing some tubes. A couple tubes I know are bad because they weren't lighting up and they weren't getting hot when I was testing the thing, and I could tell they weren't lighting up, so I've gone ahead and replaced those, but I don't know if there are other bad tubes in this. So we're going to go ahead and give it a cold shot, see what we get, and hopefully it'll come up and play. All right, guys, let's go. Immediately I noticed that the current is rising a lot faster than it did last night. Already I'm at half an amp, and I'm at about 30 volts. All right, I'm at 60 volts, and I'm a little better than half an amp. 75 volts. And I see some faint glowing on the 5Y3s, both of them, so I'm good there. We're at 90 volts. Hey, listen to that. Check that out. That's 1370 KSOP. It doesn't get better than that. That's my favorite vintage country music station in Salt Lake City. KSOP 1370. Check that out, guys. Is that cool or what? Yeah. It doesn't sound very good, but I can work on that. 100 volts. I don't really want to get a copyright strike. So there's 100 volts. 100 volts, and I'm at 1.4 amps. This thing is a power hungry monster. 120 volts, 1.7 amps. Now remember, this has a 3 amp fuse, 1 amp on the relay circuit. 123 volts and 1.7 amps. So that's where I'll stop. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah. Not very much bass yet. I might have to tinker with that. Remember, when I took this in, it had no sound at all. Now I'm going to try something. Since I know it works and I'm not overdrawing current, I'm going to go ahead and unplug this from my Variac just for grins and plug it straight into 120 volts. It is fused. So let's just see if I still get that hum. Then I'll put it back on the Variac. I hate hum. No, hum is gone. I got a little bit from my fluorescent light, but nothing serious.
They're not going to get over. Right now, what are you feeling right now? What is this like to be the fat guy on the plane? And it was miserable, and that was.
So I'm not quite sure why it's not playing as loud as I expect it to play. I may have a problem with a tube or something else. I don't know yet. In a second, I'll look at the tubes. I'll feel them anyway and see if there are any of these metal tubes that are cold. But I want to give them a chance to get good and warm. Let's see about FM. Oops. That's AM. Here's FM. See if I got anything on FM. It's dead silent on FM. Yeah, nothing. So the FMIF is built into the amplifier chassis, so I'll have a look at that. But I have no sound whatsoever in FM.
How about there? I'm going to swing it.
Okay, that's interesting. The tuning eyes, maybe that's why I thought that was bad before. They light up only when you have that circuit selected. Okay, so the AM tuning eye was lighting up very dimly, but it wasn't responding at all to any change in the signal strength. On the FM side, I'm not quite sure what's happening there because I'm not getting anything at all. So whatever it is probably big and obvious. I hope so anyway. But, so we got to start. We have a start, and I know that it's going to play. I am not satisfied with the volume, and I'm not satisfied with the tuning eye response, and I have nothing on the FM. So there are 3 problems I need to work on. Before I shut it down, I'm going to feel these metal tubes and see what I have for heat on those. If I find any cold ones, that's a good place to start. Let's look over here. Ooh, that regulator tube is cool to look at. Okay, here's one. This is icy cold. And that is an FMIF tube right there. That's an FMIF amplifier tube. That one's warm. And that one's warm. This one is icy cold. So I know this one's probably dead. That's a good place to start. I mean, why spend a lot of time troubleshooting other stuff until I get the obvious stuff out of the way? And that thing has no warmth at all. I want to show you this regulator tube. It's really cool. Check that out, man. Is that just stunning? I hope that's okay. I hope that's the way it's supposed to look, because that just is cool to no end. It's an awesome looking tube. I don't have I don't have a lot of radios that have regulator tubes, and I've never really watched one work, so I'm pretty stoked by that. That's pretty neat. I love to look at radios in the dark. I guess that's kind of strange, but that's just me. So let me show you these eyes while I'm at it. Okay, you see the one on the eye on the right is the FM, and it looks brighter in the camera than it really is. Let's hit the AM. Okay, let's turn it up and I'll show you when I tune it, it does nothing. See, it does nothing. All right, so we know what we need to do, guys. I'm going to get to work on it. When you think you have a dead tube, and you think maybe it's filament, sometimes a quick and dirty is just to check continuity across the filament, and that's what I'm doing on this right here. This is a 6SJ7, okay. This is an FM limiter tube, and pretty important part of the FM circuit. Without it, you got nothing. And the heater is across pins 2 and 7. So I put the set it for ohms and put my clips on pins 2 and 7 of the 6SJ7. I got nada, zippo. So I'm going to go find myself another tube and see where I come up with there. Okay, I dug up a 6SJ7. I didn't have it. This is the only one I found. Of course, I only looked in one of my bucket o' used tubes. I have some new old stock tubes. I didn't want to dig through those first. This actually, it's a used tube, but boy, it sure does look good. And anyway, it's a 6SJ7 GT. I like the GT tubes a lot better than the metal ones, but we'll see. Sometimes you can't go that route. But this one has a metal base, so the shielded base. So I don't know. I think it should be okay. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and slip this into the radio. And I'll put the camera back where it belongs on the tripod, and we'll give it another whirl.
During the campaign. So as the sun set on Friday night,
I have nothing at all happening in that film. As much as I wanted it to be that limiter tube, it apparently is not. I do hear a faint hiss coming out of the speaker now that I did not hear before. It turns out I forgot to install that bugger. Yeah, the FM antenna. So, and I had forgot to mention early on that there is a switch under here. I'm touching my finger to it. Right here where my finger is moving. That is a switch to go from this antenna here to the dipole antenna, and that switch is set for this antenna right here. So I'm going to go ahead and give her a whirl now and see what happens. I want to show you something, guys. You all know that I've been struggling getting the FM to work on this big beauty right here. This is the 1947 Scott 800B, in case you haven't followed the last several videos. And what I'm looking at right now, let me see if I can find it. What I'm looking at right now is the FM IF chassis and power supply with the audio output chassis. This is all one chassis. That's this guy right here. And if I were to point out the sections of the chassis, this is all the FM IF and limiter. Okay. The audio output is all this stuff in here with the chokes, these electrolytics, and the output tubes up there. There's another choke right there. And we have some rectifier tubes over here. These are both 5Y3s, a gigantic television-sized transformer. And then we have some other things. We have preamp tubes, that sort of thing. So what we have here is a nice, beefy, monstrous chassis that by any radio standards would be considered a sizable chassis all by itself. Of course, then I got this giant speaker, and I'm going to talk about that more in a later video because I have some issues there. And then the receiver chassis. So as you saw in the earlier part of this video, I had some trouble getting the FM working. Well, I did some troubleshooting. And you know, when I was working on these chassis, there were these cables here with these connectors. And you see the black connector is the one I built for the speaker. And there's the receiver interconnect cable right there, receiver to the amplifier chassis. And this is an audio connection right here that goes from the receiver. So from the tuner audio goes into this and goes to a preamp and gets, you know, and the record player as well. Just the audio comes into here and goes into the preamp part of this chassis and off it goes. Well, there's one part of this schematic that I haven't shown you yet, and that's this right there. The FM-IF input receptacle. Huh? I have been working on this thing for weeks now, and there has been this annoying cable that I've constantly had to move out of the way this way and that. And all along, I never really paid much attention to it because it was, at the other end of it, it's supposed to be a plug, and it wasn't plugged in. So I didn't think about it much. I didn't worry about it much. Even when I worked on that receiver, where this cable goes in, it just didn't strike me. And when it did strike me, I didn't remember it. And for a time, I thought, oh, that's probably the record player audio cable. But I learned that's not the case. Well, what is that cable? Well, that cable happens to be that FM-IF input. And it was supposed to go to this connector right here. Now, did I know that this connector was the FM-IF? Yes, I did. I didn't make the connection between this connector and this cable because there was no cable on this connector. For the life of me, I can't find the connector, the male part, that fits that pin out. Now, I'm sure it exists. I'm sure Rayalco probably has one, but Robert at Rayalco and I looked and we couldn't find one. Well, then I got thinking while I'm standing there at Rayalco, what the heck do I care if it's the right one if I can just go ahead and put an RCA cable in there. Now, that isn't the prettiest, and I've just sort of put it together. I'm going to dress it up a little bit. But I put that on there. All the time that I was trying to get FM out of that receiver, what I was really getting was nothing because I wasn't connected to the IF. So I've put this cable together. I haven't tested it. I haven't done anything. I like to do my first test on video. And then if I don't like what I see, I don't show you the video. Yeah, it's kind of cheating, but it's my video. So I'm going to do the testing. Hopefully you see the video and you'll see something good. And so I'll set the camera up and we'll get started. Alright guys, I am going to go ahead and turn this unit on and we're going to see what we see. Let me turn the TV off because the TV is a terrible source of noise. So hopefully I get some good news out of this test, guys. So let's give this a shot. Turned on. So right now I have it set on AM broadcast. Okay. That doesn't surprise me. AM broadcast is working. Alright, let's put it on an FM station. Hey, check that out. Oh yeah. Listen to that. This is perfect song for this. Yeah.
I've done my sentence, but committed no crime and bad mistakes.
What do you think, guys? Is that cool or what? That's FM radio right there, coming through that little loop antenna, that funky loop antenna that I dressed up a couple videos ago. Yeah, right now I feel like this. I feel like a champion. Very, very cool. Alright, they're going to nail me for copyright if I keep that up. And the tuning eye is working great, man. All I need is a bright one. It's kind of dim, but it's responding perfectly. Oh yeah, lots of FM. You know what? I'm not going to horse with the alarm. I tell you something. When you mess with old FM, the thing you got to know about old FM is if it's working, leave it the hell alone. If it's not working, then you can mess with it. Or if it's working but not working, if it's working but so terribly that you know you got to work on it, then go ahead and tinker. But I'll tell you something, man. You fall into the bog pit of early FM, and you're not prepared for really slogging your way through it. You'll pull your hair out. That's been my experience. You may have a different experience. I'm sure there are lots of smart guys out there who would love to throw comments at the video. That's fine. Please do, because I have not found an easy way to get through early FM if it's jacked up. And I have learned that if I mess with it, I usually screw it up. So I'm just going to leave it be because it's coming in great. Listen to that. No noise, nice and clear. Now remember, this is before automatic frequency control. This radio does not have AFC. So you got to kind of tinker as it's warming up to stay on station. Lots and lots of stations. That end of our dial in this area is dead anywhere. What passes for music?
Quite a few of those since the election. What are some of the things you're seeing, the big things, the big concerns that people are having with President Trump coming into the White House?
Oh, big concerns, crybabies. Why don't you just get over it? We got a new president, live with it. If you don't like it, wait 8 years, you'll get another one.
In his studio at our partner station.
I'm so sick of hearing all the whiny crybabies. I say we cut off the state of California and ship it over to Russia and let them have it.
As a slave. There are exceptions, including criminals.
Yeah, I love Mexican music. I don't understand a damn word of it, but I love it. You know what's cool about Mexican music is that Mexican music has remained more traditional. I know there's new stuff that I'm probably not hearing, but the stuff I hear in the stations here in Salt Lake City is more traditional, so some nice traditional instruments. I really like that. Yeah, KSOP on FM 104. Man, this is working great. I'm not touching the alignment on this FM. Yeah, there we go. That's my favorite rock band right there. Tell me if you know who this is. This is my favorite rock band, and this is off of my favorite album by this band. Anybody that doesn't know this needs to check in their American card and see if they really are American. This is, even though these guys are Canadian, this is Rush. This is off of the Permanent Waves album, and this is a song called Spirit of the Radio. What a great song. The first time I saw Rush was back, I think, in 1982. Might have been 83, I'm not sure, but it was way back. I think it was actually around 1980 or 81. Anyway, it was to see Rush for this tour, and I saw him in Chicago, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, man. I loved it. I loved it. The Rosemont Horizon, that place, it's either got a different name or doesn't exist anymore. I saw Rush at the Rosemont Horizon, and they began with songs from this record. This may have even been the first song. And I'll tell you something, man, it changed my life. And I've probably gone to a couple hundred concerts since then. I've seen Rush and Supertramp. I've seen Pink Floyd. I've seen Yes. I've seen Journey. I've seen all the really cool bands. And I'll tell you something, there are two bands that did really great, Rush and Supertramp. All the rest of them, their music is great, but they didn't put on shows like those two bands. I can't resist, man. Alright, that's enough of that. That sounds good, man.
He said I was in my early 40s with a lot of life before me. And a moment came that stopped me on a dime. I spent most of the next days looking at the x-rays, talking about the options and talking about sweet time. I asked him when it sank in that this might really be the real end. How's it hit you when you get that kind of news? Man, what you do? And he said, I went skydiving, I went rocky mountain climbing, I went.
This song hits home, guys, because about two and a half years ago, my wife was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and we've been fighting it ever since. And I don't talk about it on the videos because I don't want to be a downer, but I'll tell you, sometimes you just got to let people know what you're going through because they might be going through the same thing, and you might learn from each other. And there's no, what this man is singing about is exactly what it feels like.
St. Louis.
We toured a remarkable collection of American folklore on Lomax.
There are approximately 10,000 sound recordings in the collection, about 5,500 photographs, and 650 linear feet of paper, which is about 500,000 pieces of paper.
It's the man who recorded the world this week on the New Jazz Archive.
Tomorrow evening at 5, here on KCPW.
This is Doug Wells, host of KCPW's The Bottom Line.
This station, KCPW, plays a lot of cool jazz, especially on the weekend nights, but even during the week. And I don't know what kind of music you like, but I am a big fan of jazz, American jazz from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And even some modern stuff is good too, but boy, especially in the 50s. Some of the best jazz I ever heard was done in the 40s and 50s. And this station plays a bunch of it. It's nice stuff, and it's worth listening to, and it comes in crystal clear. This is a station right at, I think it's 88.6 or something. Anyway, it's comes in real good. So what I have discovered here is that on FM, now that I've fixed that interconnect cable, you know, have you ever just done something so boneheaded you want to just kick yourself? I spent hours chasing this down, and then I look up and I see that on the schema, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, it would help if I connected up the IF. All right, so once I did that, I did have a dead tube early on, so that needed to be fixed anyway, and the troubleshooting forced me to find that. Okay, cool. But once I did that, the FM is beautiful, man. I did a lot of work on the FM part of the amp chassis. Every single cap in that IF just about got replaced. A lot of the resistors, and I had to move a lot of wires around. I was very careful to make sure they went back where they started. And I took the cover off of each IF. I cleaned it up and everything. But I'll tell you something, man. I'm going to leave them alone because they don't want to be bothered. This radio is screaming at me, don't screw with me. So I'm going to follow that. The AM, on the other hand, will need alignment. That's typical. I can do that easily without ever getting in trouble. I've done hundreds of AM alignments. It's the early FM ones I don't like. Later FM's not too bad, but early FM I don't like horsing with. So I think I'm good. I'm going to do the AM alignment on this. What I have left to do is this speaker is not playing. Holy crap. That speaker's hot. That's not good. Oh, I forgot. There's a big, man, I'll tell you, that frightened me. There is a bit, I forgot, under this cap, there is a very large, it's a 700 ohm, she's about a 10 watt wire wound resistor that sits right under here. This radio was initially designed for a radio with a field coil. Well, since there's no field coil in this, they put basically a 700 ohm and a 9K ohm. This wire wound, the big one, is the one I left original, and it gets quite hot. So that kind of startled me because I've never felt a speaker get hot before, but I forgot about that resistor. But in any event, my problem is this speaker is not performing like it should. That may be why that resistor is hot. This thing is I'm not getting any bass out of it. So the treble speaker is playing fine. I don't know if the bass speaker is even working or not because I just don't. It doesn't have the boomy sound that this size speaker ought to be giving me. This is like I think a 15-inch speaker. This thing ought to knock the walls down. It ought to be loud. I've heard these radios play, and they play loud. That's one of the things about these Scots that's so wonderful. You've got 22 tubes, man, and you're putting it out with a couple of big 6L6s, and you've got dual rectifiers and all that. It ought to be cranking out some tunes. So that speaker is underperforming. I want to figure out why. If I can't get that speaker to perform well, it is a permanent magnet speaker. So what I will do is I've got some nice, very, very robust Magnavoxes that are the same size as this guy, and they'll mount right in the same place. They put out some tunes. They came from some early tube-based Magnavox Astrosonic consoles. And if you've ever heard one of those, they are nice. They sound nice. I do a lot of work for a guy that does jukebox work. He restores jukeboxes, and he has me do his amplifier work. Sometimes he'll come across a bad speaker, and then I sell him one of these Maggie speakers because they sound terrific with a nice old Seaberg or Rockola amp. I have to do some things because those machines were designed for field coils. At least the earlier ones, the late 40s ones, were designed for field coil speakers. And so I do some things with wire wounds to take care of that. Same thing that Scott did with this. So I may do a similar thing with one of those for this machine. They have the same voice coil, about the same voice coil impedance as this guy does. So really all I need to do is put this wire wound on that one of those speakers, and off to the races I go. So that's one thing I need to do. I need to do the AM alignment. I got those things to do. When the record player parts get here, I need to put the record player back together. And pretty much this guy will be about done. But so far so good. I'm really thrilled that I got the FM working, and it was such an easy fix. That tells me that the work I did on the radio was high quality. And I replaced that tube, that 6SJ7. I replaced that tube, so I'm good there. All right, I'll get back to work and I'll show you what progress I've made.